chapter 9 last week, and I guess we could take anything from that as to whom much is given, much is required. We're going to pick up in chapter 10. And chapter 10 is an introduction to chapters 11 and 12. The head of all things coming around here. It's kind of a glimpse at the dark side of things, spiritual warfare. And remember, chapters 8 through 12, the writing goes from Aramaic back into Hebrew because the focus goes back onto Israel during this time. But before we get into Daniel and get going, let's go to 2 Kings chapter 6, and we'll start about verse 8. And we'll see a little bit of spiritual warfare. I'll give you a minute to get there. It says, Then the king of Syria warred against Israel and took counsel with his servants, saying, In such and such a place shall be my camp. And we've read all this before, but it's good to get refreshed. And the man of God, which in this case is Elisha, as we'll see later, and the man of God sent unto the king of Israel, saying, Beware that thou pass not such a place, for thither the Syrians are coming down. And the king of Israel sent to the place which the man of God told him and warned him of, and saved himself there, not once nor twice. So many times Elisha has warned the king of Israel not to send his army to these places. Many times. Therefore the heart of the king of the Syrians was sore troubled for this thing, and he called his servants and said unto them, Will you not show me which of us is for the king of Israel? So he thinks he has a spy, because this has happened so many times. He thinks there's a spy in the midst. And one of his servants said, None, my lord, O king, but Elisha the prophet that is in Israel telleth the king of Israel the words that thou speakest in thy bedchamber. This might be the first case of wiretapping we ever see in the Bible. He got his house bugged. And he said, the king said, and he said, Go and spy where he is, that I may send and fetch him. And it was told him, saying, Behold, he is in Dothan. Therefore sent he hither horses and chariots and a great host, and they came by night and compassed the city about. And when the servant of the man of God was risen early and gone forth, behold, a host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, Alas, my master, how shall we do? And he answered, Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. So you can imagine his servant here, the things he can see are troubling him. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. So, it's telling me here some people are able to see some things that other people can't. When they came down to him, Elisha prayed unto the Lord and said, Smite this people, I pray thee, with blindness. And he smote them with a blindness according to the word of Elisha. And Elisha said unto them, This is not the way, neither is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom ye seek. But he led them to Samaria. And it came to pass, when they were come unto Samaria, now he's leading this whole host of blind people. An army of blind people. And Elisha said, Lord, open the eyes of these men that they may see. And they opened and the Lord opened their eyes, and they saw, and behold, they were in the midst of Samaria. And the king of Israel said unto Elisha, when he saw them, My father, shall I smite them? Shall I smite them? So he's asking Elisha if he needs to be killing them. And he answered, Thou shalt not smite them. Wouldest thou smite those whom thou hast taken captive with thy sword and with thy bow? Set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master. And he prepared great provision for them. And when they had eaten and drunk, he sent them away. and they sent to their master. So the bands of Syria came no more into the land of Israel. That's some spiritual warfare. I mean, Elijah was the original prophet here. And he did some very interesting things, but Elisha asked for a double portion of what Elijah had. And he did some great things through God. So there are people that can see some things that we can't. There are things going on that we cannot see, and we would be scared to death if we could. You know. So we'll get on back to Daniel chapter 10. Verse 1. It says, in the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel. So right here in Daniel chapter 1, we see, I think it's the last verse of that chapter, Daniel continued through the 1st year of Cyrus. Okay, so Daniel is an old man here. Daniel's probably in his 80s, give or take, from what we can tell. So he's no longer in the public eye. He's no longer serving any kings because Cyrus set the Hebrew people free. Okay? So Daniel's on his own time here, I guess, whose name was called Belteshazzar. And the thing was true, but the time appointed was long. And he understood the thing and had an understanding of the vision. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. So Daniel was fasting, because he said, I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth, neither did I anoint myself at all till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. So Daniel was seeking something here. So he fasted. He denied self so that he could get a little closer to God. And you can look up, there's a thing called Daniel's fast. It's, best I can tell, it's just vegetables and water. Okay, so in the, I think I wrote it down. Let me look here. Pleasant bread. What that means is desirable bread. You know, bread that you would really want to have, you know. I guess that'd be a honey bun or something. I don't know. So anyway, he's fasting 3 full weeks to get an answer to something, which I believe is this vision he's had. So we'll go on. And the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was by the side of the great river, which is Hiddekel, then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body was also like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes of lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like the color of polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. Some scholars say that this possibly could be Christ. I don't think so, because as we read on, this being here had to have help. Christ don't need no help. Okay? It could have been Gabriel, possibly. Possibly. But we'll move on. And Daniel alone saw the vision, for the men that were with me saw not the vision. So apparently he was with a group of people. But a great quaking fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves. So whatever, I guess this being projected fear, and they ran off. Therefore I was left alone, and saw this great vision, and there remained no strength in me, for my comeliness was turned in me into corruption, and I retained no strength. Yet I heard the voice of his words, and when I heard the voice of his words, then was I in a deep sleep on my face, and my face toward the ground. That deep sleep happens in Genesis chapter 2, when Adam loses a rib for Eve, prime rib. I don't know if y'all was in Bible school that year, but we had a hoot with that one. And in Genesis chapter 15, Abraham was given a glimpse of the future of himself in Israel. And it refers to him being a deep sleep on his face. Verse 10. And behold, a hand touched me, which set me upon my knees, and upon the palms of my hands. And he said unto me, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee, and stand upright, for unto thee am I now sent. And when he had spoken these words unto me, I stood trembling. Greatly beloved, which is Daniel, and the other one that was loved was John. You can read about that. I believe it's John chapter 11 and John chapter 21, if you want to see about that. So Daniel's greatly beloved here, and this being has been sent, which is an angel, to help him out. Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand, and to chasten thyself before thy God, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words. And this is the reason I say that was not a picture of Jesus, is right here in verse 13. It says, But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia. Now I am come to make thee understand what shall befall thy people in the latter days, for yet the vision is for many days. So we see another glimpse into spiritual warfare here in verses 12 and 13. When Daniel's prayer was heard, the answer was sent, but this guy was resisted by another power, so it took him 21 days. And he wouldn't have got there if it wasn't for Michael. Apparently, the way we understand this. He may have got there eventually. I don't know. It don't say. But as a Christian, you know, there's some days that our warfare is a whole lot harder than it is other days. I think that depends on how much of the Word we have in us and how close we are. It's all the time going on around us, and we really don't realize it. We go to verse 15. And when he had spoken such words unto me, I set my face toward the ground, and I became dumb. And behold, one like the similitude of the sons of men touched my lips. Then I opened my mouth and spake, and said unto him that stood before me, O my Lord, by the vision my sorrows are turned upon me, and I have retained no strength. For how can the servant of this my Lord talk with this my Lord? For as for me, straightway there remain no strength in me, neither is there breath left in me. And we're going to come back to these two verses, because I'm going to finish out this chapter, because it's kind of a short one. But we're going to go on through here. Then there came again and touched me one like the appearance of a man, and he strengthened me, and said, O man greatly beloved, fear not, peace be unto thee, be strong, yea, be strong. That's a commandment right there, be strong. You know, it tells those that overcometh will inherit. Well, you're going to have to be strong if you're going to overcome it. Be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. Anyway, be strong, yea, be strong. And when he had spoken unto me, I was strengthened, and said, Lord, let my Lord speak, for thou hast strengthened me. Then said he, Knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come. So he's going to go back and fight with the prince of Persia. But later on, he's telling them that the prince of Grecia shall come. Well, Greece didn't even come on the scene for another 250 years, I think. Okay, so he's giving him a little glimpse into the future there. But I will show thee that which is noted in the Scripture of truth, and there is none that holdeth with me in these things but Michael your prince. And we see Michael referenced several times in Scripture, and usually he's fighting. So he is a form of an archangel or a chief prince, and he has a lot of power. And we could probably do a class a little bit on the angels, because all the angels are created beings. They're not on the same level of existence as the Trinity. The devil is a created being. Satan is a created being. Created by who? Christ. If we read our book, it tells us Christ is the creator of all things. But I guess what I really want to pull out of this chapter, besides the spiritual warfare, is going back to verses 16 and 17. It says, "And behold, one like the similitude of the sons of men touched my lips. Then I opened my mouth and spake, and said unto him that stood before me, O my Lord, by the vision my sorrows are turned upon me, and I have retained no strength. For how can the servant of this my Lord talk with this my Lord? For as for me, straightway there remained no strength in me, neither is there breath left in me." And even earlier in the chapter, he's got no strength. Daniel realizes here, just as Moses did and Isaiah did in chapter 6, I believe. If y'all remember, he was given a look into the throne room of God. John, all these people, these men of faith that have had encounters with heavenly beings, saw their inadequacy. You know, what their our measuring stick is Christ. If we really pay attention to Christ, we come up way short. Okay? So these men have seen their inadequacies. And I think some of the problem with the world today is they have lost their awe and fear of God. Okay? God is not our buddy. God is the sovereign ruler of the universe. The microverse and the macroverse, big and small, he rules it all. He is not our buddy. And he has standards and requirements that he believes that we should stick to. And he's given us a book of them to help us follow them. But so often we put him in a little box over here and we pull him out when we need him. You know, and I say me, you know. And this book of instructions that I have chosen to ignore so many times, you know, I'm going to answer for some of this. You know, that is a sobering thought. I'm going to read you something. There's a cathedral in Lubeck, Germany, and these words are carved into this door. And this door is huge. The doors are bigger than the height of this ceiling. The cathedral's over our serious business. They don't know who the author was. They don't know who carved it, but it's on these doors in Lubeck, Germany. And it's so eye-opening when you read it and try to understand it. And this is Christ speaking, is the way this guy is presenting this. It says, "You call me eternal and seek me not. You call me fire and love me not. You call me gracious and trust me not." How many of these categories do I fall in? "You call me just and fear me not." Now you think about, God is just, justice. Ooh, what am I guilty for? It says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It says, "You call me life and choose me not." Ooh. "You call me light and see me not. You call me Lord and respect me not." "You call me master and obey me not." "You call me merciful and thank me not." I mean, you know, I believe it's David that said the mercies of God are renewed every day upon us, you know, and we take that for granted. I jump out of bed, instead of thanking God for another day, I jump out of bed and I'm prepared for another day, I think, you know. "You call me mighty and honor me not. You call me noble and serve me not." You know, how me and Sally talked a little bit last night, the way life is set up. You know, you've got so many things to do, and you have to pick and choose either what you want to do or what you should do. It's just, and a lot of times I make the wrong choice. Uh, You call me rich and ask me not. If you need something, ask me. And he tells us that many times. You call me Savior and praise me not. I don't know who this man was that came up with this, but I believe he had some inspiration here. You call me the shepherd and follow me not. You call me the way and walk me not. You call me wise and heed me not. You call me the Son of God and worship me not. And when I condemn you, blame me not. To whom much is given, much is required. I'm just saying, I was talking to Mama, it's been a few days ago, and it may have been last week. No, it wasn't last week's, but it was another class, and she said, you have opened my eyes to some things that I am failing miserably at. I was like, me too. What am I responsible for? What am I responsible for? I mean, because we're going to be standing before a throne one day and being judged for our deeds. You know, what we did for the cause of Christ and His glory will remain, and everything else will burn. I mean, Philippians tells us to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. Well, there's a reason it says that. You know, when I stand before Him, I'm going to be on my own. I can't point any fingers at anybody but me. And oh, how I felt so miserably. This is a relatively short chapter. It's an introduction into 11 and 12, which really starts to ramp up some things. I'm going to tell you this, and I have not researched this out to a great deal yet. Okay? But, you know, John and I come across a thing where the Jewish people have been praying on the Temple Mount with no problem. Okay? Well, I came across a thing yesterday, and there's a guy, I don't have any of this, haven't researched it out, I've got it all wrote on a little piece of paper at the house. But according to Jewish traditional law, to restart the sacrifice, they do not have to have a temple. Okay? All they need is access to the altar, where the altar of David was, which is on the Temple Mount. And this person, the Prime Minister of Israel, the current Prime Minister, is saying there's nothing stopping them for instituting the sacrifice and getting it rolling again. How rapidly is time starting to wind up? Because we're in Daniel here, and it says in that 7-year period, which is the last 7 years of this is tribulation, in the middle of that, the sacrifice and the oblation will cease. So the sacrifice has to be going. And there's two different ones. One is an ideal sacrifice and one's not an ideal sacrifice. And I will research this more and bring you more information. This is just what I know now. So now they have access to pray on the Temple Mount, okay, which they haven't had, I don't know how many years, but I'll find out. So they're up here praying. They're over here talking about doing the sacrifices. All they've got to do is have access to the area where David's altar was. Because if I'm correct, the temple that David had was a tent. The monstrous temple wasn't built until Solomon. Okay? So, we can see some things lining up that should excite us a little bit. It excites me until I think about what I'm responsible for. I'm just saying. Some things are starting to happen that are fulfilling prophecy. We've seen a lot of prophecy fulfilled since 1948. But things are rapidly happening. I'll do some more study on this. Like I say, I don't know if this is when the sacrifice is going to start and if it's a sacrifice that will be ceased. I don't know. But it interested me when they said they could do the sacrifice without the temple and without the red heifer. So I guess it would make a bunch of the sacrifices okay until you get for the sacrifice of atonement, which is once a year, and the high priest does it and all that and forgive the people of their sin. I don't know all that yet, but I'll look into that and see, because it really does interest me a whole lot. Because if that is the case, the coming of the Lord could be a whole lot closer than we think, which is exciting, but there'll be some strange things going on, probably some bad things going on. But, I know my expected end. I just don't know what's between here and there. So, stay in your book, stay read up, prayed up, and that's all I got for this week. Anybody got any questions? Yes, sir.